Lara was sitting at her desk in the corporate headquarters of Intergalactic Resource Solutions, a powerhouse managing exchanges between planets, moons, and star systems. Her sharp mind and unmatched ability to solve problems had made her the go-to manager for anyone looking to broker a deal. Little did anyone know, her greatest skill wasn't just negotiating trade agreements, it was dealing with the absurd and often unexpected requests of alien clients. The latest communication came from Zorgith, an alien manager from the Andromeda Galaxy. He was not someone Lara usually worked with, but his message was urgent and direct. "Lara, I need your help. You're renowned for handling complex situations, and mine is one of the most unusual. Please, will you feed my cravings?" Lara blinked. Feed my cravings? What did that even mean? She'd handled plenty of odd requests in her time, but this was new territory. Was it a metaphor? Maybe Zorgith needed human food, some exotic dish to appease his taste buds. But then again, she knew enough about alien physiology to know that some species didn't even eat the same way humans did. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the edge of her desk. Could it be something else entirely? Maybe an emotional craving? Her mind raced through the possibilities. Just then, a secondary message pinged on her screen, and Zorgitha's holographic form flickered to life before her. A towering figure with smooth, gray skin and antennae that twitched nervously, he seemed both regal and absurdly uncomfortable. "I have been informed that you are an expert in not just handling trade, but emotional needs," Zorgith said, his voice deep and resonant, yet oddly hesitant. "And I have a craving. One that cannot be satisfied by my own kind. I require your assistance." Craving? Well, I'm not sure what you're asking for here. Are we talking food? Or something else? Lara's voice was playful, but her mind was already bracing for something weird. She'd seen it all in her line of work, but the way Zorgith was speaking, so serious, so formal, it had an edge of humor that couldn't be ignored. Zorgith let out a sigh, a sound that almost resembled a sigh of frustration, if such an emotion existed in his species. "It is not food. Not in the way you would think, no." His antennae wavered as if searching for the right words. "My species has evolved, beyond the need for sustenance in the conventional sense. We feed on emotions. On the desires and pleasures of others." His eyes gleamed with an almost predatory curiosity. Lara's lips curled into a smirk. "Well, that certainly wasn't what I expected. So, you're telling me you want human emotions? And what? I'm supposed to just, feed you some kind of human experience?" Zorgitha's antennae twitched rapidly. "Yes. Exactly. I need your desires. Your pleasures. You see, my kind has grown immune to our own methods of feeding. It is only human emotions that can fulfill me now. And I crave them. I am desperate." Lara leaned forward, her tone turning mockingly serious. "Are we talking dinner or dessert? Because if you're asking me to share my pleasures, Zorgith, you're asking for more than a snack." Zorgith seemed to misunderstand the humor in her words, his body stiffening slightly, clearly not familiar with the subtlety of human flirtation. I am not asking for that," he stammered, his tone serious again. "But I require your help, Lara. I cannot do this alone. I need to experience human interaction, your emotions, your needs." "Oh, this is rich," Lara thought to herself, trying to contain her laughter. The situation was quickly becoming a comedy of errors. She decided to play along and get some answers. "Well, Zorgith, I've got a lot of emotions. A lot of needs. But first, let's be clear here, I'm not some emotional buffet. You'll need to work for it." She raised an eyebrow, allowing the words to hang in the air for a moment. "Let's say, hypothetically, I help you out. What exactly would I get in return? Because let's face it, this is a two-way street." Zorgitha's expression flickered, his large alien eyes widening with a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. "In return, I can offer you expertise. My people are masters in trade, technology, and resources that no one else can provide. We have access to materials you could never imagine. Lara's lips curved again, but this time it was a more thoughtful smile. Well, now you're speaking my language. But it sounds like you're asking for something a lot more personal than just a business deal. Emotions? Cravings? What exactly do you need from me? Zorgotha's voice grew more insistent, but there was still an undeniable hint of awkwardness in his words. I need your assistance, Lara. You have to understand. My kind's desires are complex. And only human emotions can satisfy us. Please, will you help me feed my cravings? Lara looked at the hologram, her mind processing the absurdity of it all. She had handled shady deals and strange requests before, but this was an entirely different ballgame. Still, she wasn't one to back down from a challenge, especially not one this odd. All right, Zorgoth, she said, a grin tugging at the corner of her lips. Let's see what you've got. But I'll warn you, humans aren't easy to please. And I don't just give out my emotional satisfaction for free. Zorgotha's antennae twitched with something that might have been a mix of nervousness and anticipation. I will compensate you fully. Your emotional pleasure is more valuable to me than you can imagine. Lara laughed, leaning back in her chair. Well, Zorgoth, let's see if you're up for the challenge. But first, I want to promise, no funny business. Just help me out with your emotional cravings, and I'll see what I can do. Zorgoth nodded solemnly, though Lara couldn't help but notice how much the alien's tone and body language seemed to betray his desperation. This wasn't just about emotions, there was something deeper at play here, and Lara was more than intrigued to find out just how far Zorgoth would go to satisfy his cravings. Well then, she said, let's see what you're really after. Zorgotha's communication had barely ended before Lara found herself running through her options. This wasn't the first time she'd encountered strange requests in her line of work, but this one was a different level of bizarre. An alien, one who could have had any resource at his disposal, was asking her for human emotions. What exactly did that mean? And why did it feel like the whole situation was about to go off the rails in the most entertaining way possible? She leaned back in her chair, staring at the blinking lights on her screen. Could this really be happening? Could it be that simple? Of course, that's the moment she realized she'd have to play along, at least for now. If Zorgotha's empire was as influential as he said, getting on his good side could be a game-changer for her career. But there was something else, something she wasn't quite prepared for. Something about Zorgotha's desperation was unsettling, like a cosmic hunger she wasn't sure could be satisfied without some unintended consequences. Taking a deep breath, Lara cleared her mind of all distractions and sent a simple reply. All right, Zorgoth. I'm in. But we do this my way. If you want me to feed your cravings, you'll have to follow my lead. The response came back almost immediately, almost too eager, of course. I will do anything. Just help me. Lara's mind raced through the possibilities. What exactly was she dealing with here? She'd read reports on alien species with unique emotional dependencies, but nothing like this. Still, there was something oddly charming about Zorgotha's openness. If she could figure out how to control this situation, it could turn into a far more entertaining, or profitable, experience than she'd originally anticipated. First things first, Zorgoth, she typed, her fingers dancing over the keys. I need you to understand something. I'm not going to just feed you random human emotions. Emotions aren't like food you can just consume at will. They come with complexity, and they come with consequences. Zorgotha's reply was almost immediate. I understand. I only ask to experience your desires. That is all. Will you help me? A strange wave of amusement washed over Lara. The alien's tone was so serious, yet so utterly clueless. She had the sudden urge to tease him. It wasn't something she usually did, but there was something undeniably satisfying about the idea of outsmarting Zorgoth in this very peculiar negotiation. I'm sure you do, Zorgoth. But you see, human desires, our cravings, are more than just basic wants. You're asking to feast on something deeply personal. Are you ready for that? Lara sent, a subtle challenge in her words. Zorgotha's antennae twitched nervously, even through the hologram, and his next response seemed almost desperate. I have longed for this, Lara. Please, help me. I am prepared. Lara smirked. He was desperate all right, but that could work to her advantage. She wasn't about to let Zorgoth dictate the terms. No, if this was going to be a transaction, it was going to be on her terms. She stood up from her desk and began pacing, plotting her next move. Well, Zorgoth, she replied, her tone now cool and calculating, if you're really serious about this, we need to start small. Emotions are like energy. They build. But to feed properly, you need to understand them, feel them. And right now, you're way off the mark. There was a pause before Zorgotha's response came through. I am open to learning. I am willing to do whatever it takes. Will you show me, Lara? Lara sighed. The alien's desperation was palpable, and it was hard to ignore the sense of power she felt over the situation. There was a certain satisfaction in being the one in control. But it was also a little concerning. She'd always been confident in her ability to manage negotiations, but this felt like something else entirely. She was not only negotiating an intergalactic trade deal, she was playing with someone's deeply ingrained needs, their emotional vulnerabilities. That was a dangerous game. She sat back down at her desk, fingers once again dancing over the keys. All right, Zorgoth. We'll start with something simple. How about this? Let's see how well you can process human humor. Another pause. This time, Zorgotha's response came slower, almost as if you were trying to grasp the concept of humor itself. Humor? His response was cautious. I do not understand. What is this, humor? Lara could barely suppress a chuckle. She wasn't just in control of this negotiation, she was also providing Zorgoth with his first real taste of human complexity. She could tell by his question that he had no idea what humor truly was. He understood logic and calculation, but this was territory he'd never navigated before. Humor is one of the most fundamental aspects of human interaction, Lara replied, leaning back in her chair. It's about finding joy in the unexpected, the absurd. It's not something you can force. It happens naturally. Zorgotha's antennae quivered with curiosity. I see. And you believe I can feed on this humor? You'll see, Lara typed, her smile widening. But first, let's see if you can even understand a joke. Here's one. Why did the chicken cross the road? Zorgotha's hologram seemed to hesitate, clearly trying to process the information. I do not know. Why? Lara leaned forward, her fingers hovering over the keys. To get to the other side. There was a long, awkward silence before Zorgoth responded, his voice trembling slightly. I do not understand. Lara could hardly contain her laughter now. This was it, her first successful attempt to get Zorgoth involved in the human experience. It wasn't just that she was controlling the situation, it was the realization that she was teaching him, step by step, the complexities of human emotions and desires. In that moment, Lara felt a strange mix of power and amusement. You'll get the hang of it eventually, she said with a grin. It's all part of the process. But humor's only the beginning. There's a lot more to feed on if you're willing to dive deeper into human nature. Zorgoth responded with a mixture of fascination and determination. I am ready. Show me more. Lara knew this was just the beginning of a strange, unpredictable journey. But the road ahead was clear, she would lead Zorgoth through the human experience, and she'd have a hell of a time doing it. Lara sat back in her chair, watching Zorgotha's hologram flicker with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. She was starting to enjoy the game. There was something undeniably fun about pulling the strings, about guiding the alien through human desires, while simultaneously indulging in the absurdity of it all. The situation was bizarre, sure, but Lara had a knack for making the best of any odd situation. All right, Zorgith, she typed, her fingers tapping confidently on the keyboard. You've had your first taste of humor. But we both know that's just the appetizer. Let's see if you can handle something a bit more complex. Zorgith's holographic form stiffened, his antennae twitching nervously. I am ready, Lara. I am prepared for whatever you wish to show me. Lara smirked, leaning back in her chair. She'd already decided that this next step was going to be a test of both his resolve and his ability to process human emotions. Humor was simple enough, but deeper desires, more nuanced human traits, were an entirely different matter. The real challenge would come when she pushed him past his comfort zone. I'm going to give you a little task, Zorgith, she typed, choosing her words carefully. You're going to experience a human craving, one that goes beyond food, beyond humor. You're going to understand what it's like to want something so badly that you can't think of anything else. Zorgith's eyes seemed to widen. What is this craving you speak of? Lara felt a strange sense of satisfaction at his confusion. She'd already anticipated his reaction. Desire, she typed simply. The craving to be close to someone, to connect on a level that transcends mere conversation. The yearning that makes us want to be around people we care about. It's a powerful force. Can you handle that, Zorgith? The alien blinked, clearly struggling to comprehend. You wish to show me, desire? Exactly, Lara typed, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Now, listen carefully. Desire isn't something that can be controlled, it's an instinct. It's raw. And the closer you get to it, the more intense it becomes. You feel it in your chest, in your thoughts. You can't escape it, no matter how hard you try. It's like a fire that burns inside of you. Zorgith's holographic form seemed to shrink back for a moment, as though the intensity of her words had struck him in a way he hadn't expected. I do not understand. How can something like that be so powerful? Lara grinned, enjoying his confusion. This was where the fun really began. Desire doesn't follow logic, she typed, her voice almost teasing in its tone. It's irrational. It defies reason. But it's there, lurking beneath the surface. I'll help you understand. But first, you need to give it a try. A long pause followed, and Lara could almost hear Zorgith's thoughts racing through the static of the transmission. Then, finally, his voice came through again, quieter this time. I want to try. Lara felt a rush of amusement. The alien was more willing than she thought. Maybe she'd underestimated just how eager he was to experience human emotions. But then again, his desperation had been evident from the start. Now, it was time to take it further. She leaned forward and began typing again, crafting her response carefully. All right, Zorgith. Here's your first test. I want you to imagine the feeling of being wanted, of being desired by someone you care about. Can you do that? Can you feel the pull, the need to be close? Zorgith's antennae quivered, and his eyes flickered with something that might have been uncertainty, or curiosity. I am not sure I can. Lara sighed, her fingers still hovering over the keyboard. She had expected a bit more resistance, but it was clear that Zorgith's understanding of human desires was far more limited than she'd anticipated. Yet, that only made the task more interesting. She would have to guide him through this, slowly. Fine, she typed, we'll take it step by step. Let's start with a simple concept, longing. You know that feeling when you're separated from someone you care about, and you just want to be with them? You miss their presence, their touch. That's longing. Can you feel that, Zorgith? This time, there was no immediate response. For a moment, Lara wondered if she'd gone too far too soon. But then, Zorgith's holographic form shuddered, his gaze distant, as though something had clicked into place. I feel it, he finally said. It is strange, but I feel it. A pulling sensation. As though something inside of me is missing. Lara nodded to herself, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She had just given him his first taste of human emotional complexity. But there was still more to explore. Good, she typed, her fingers slowing to a deliberate pace. Now, let's take this further. Desire isn't just about wanting someone to be near, it's about the need to connect. To share something deeper. Can you imagine the feeling of wanting someone not just physically, but emotionally? Wanting to understand their thoughts, to experience their joy and their pain? Zorgotha's response was a little slower this time, and Lara could hear the uncertainty in his voice. I think I understand. It is more than just the physical. It is a connection of minds and hearts. Lara smiled to herself. Exactly. And that's where things get interesting, Zorgoth. When you desire someone on that level, it changes everything. It makes you feel exposed, vulnerable. You want to give them a piece of yourself, but you also fear losing control. Zorgoth seemed to take a moment to process her words, and Lara felt the weight of the conversation settle in. This was no longer just about a business deal. It had become something more. The alien was learning about human emotion, learning about the very thing that made humans unique in the vast expanse of the galaxy. And somehow, Lara was guiding him through it. I feel conflicted, Zorgoth said, his voice full of wonder and confusion. There is something powerful about this desire. It is not just a craving for closeness. It is a need. A hunger. Lara nodded, her smile growing wider. She had known that Zorgotha's species was driven by these desires, but seeing him experience it firsthand was something else entirely. That's right, Zorgoth. And the thing about desire is, it's never easy. It pulls you in, and then it leaves you wanting more. It's a cycle. And the more you experience it, the more you crave it. Zorgotha's hologram flickered, and for the first time, Lara saw a flicker of what could only be described as understanding in his alien eyes. He had gotten a taste of human longing, and he was hooked. So, this is what you wanted me to experience? Zorgotha's voice was quieter now, almost reverent. The craving. The hunger. Lara grinned. Exactly. But don't get too comfortable. There's still much more to explore. If you're truly ready to feed your cravings, you'll need to understand the full spectrum of human desires. And that's not something you can just learn in one sitting. Zorgotha's eyes gleamed. I will do whatever it takes, Lara. Teach me. And with that, the game continued. But for Lara, the excitement of guiding an alien through the labyrinth of human emotions had only just begun. Lara leaned back in her chair, watching Zorgotha's hologram flicker, his alien form still processing everything she had exposed him to. She knew that the game had shifted in a way neither of them had expected. It wasn't just about fulfilling his cravings anymore. Zorgoth had tasted the complexities of human emotion, and now, he was hooked. But there was something deeper at play. Something that both fascinated and unnerved her. All right, Zorgoth, Lara typed, her fingers hovering over the keys. You've experienced desire. You've felt the pull of longing. But now it's time to move on to something a bit darker. Zorgotha's antennae twitched as his response came through, filled with uncertainty. Darker? What do you mean, Lara? Lara's eyes narrowed, a faint smile tugging at her lips. I'm talking about something humans crave more than anything, power. The desire to control. The need to dominate. And I think you've got an idea of what that feels like. The alien's form flickered again, as if trying to process her words. Power? Control? His voice was slower this time, filled with hesitation. I do not understand. How can this be a craving? Lara's grin widened. She had expected this reaction. Zorgoth was so used to thinking about trade, negotiation, and logic, human emotions were so far beyond his understanding that they almost seemed like a different universe to him. Power, Zorgoth, is more than just having authority or control over others. It's the need to bend others to your will, to manipulate situations to get what you want. It's about wanting something so badly that you'll do anything to achieve it. And once you have it, you'll crave more. It becomes an addiction. Zorgotha's hologram flickered again, and Lara could almost sense his confusion mixed with curiosity. He didn't understand, not fully. But she was patient. The real test was getting him to experience it. She leaned forward, fingers poised over the keys. Imagine this, you're standing in a room full of powerful individuals. All of them are watching you, waiting for you to make a decision. And with just one word, one command, you can change everything. You can control their fate. Can you feel it, Zorgith? The rush of power? The ability to shape the future with your own hands? Zorgitha's response was delayed, as if the alien was struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what she was asking him to imagine. His voice finally came through, quieter now. I think I understand. It is like being the one who decides everything. The one who commands others to act. Exactly, Lara typed, her smile growing. But here's the catch, Zorgith. The more you experience power, the more you'll crave it. It'll consume you. And soon, it won't just be about having control, it'll be about feeling that rush, that high, over and over again. And that's when things start to get dangerous. Zorgitha's antennae trembled, his tone now a mix of fascination and disbelief. But how do I feed on this craving, Lara? How do I feel it? Lara leaned back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It's all about understanding human nature, Zorgith. Power isn't just about giving orders or making decisions, it's about understanding the desires of others and using those desires to your advantage. It's about manipulating emotions, playing with people's weaknesses. You think it's all about logic, but it's really about understanding the heart of the matter. Zorgith paused again, his form flickering uncertainly. So, you are saying that to feel power, I must manipulate others? To control their emotions? Lara nodded, her fingers dancing over the keys. Exactly. But power isn't always a clean, simple thing. It's messy. It's dangerous. And once you feel it, you'll never want to let it go. Can you handle that, Zorgith? Are you ready to experience the dark side of desire? Zorgitha's reply was slow, but there was a shift in his voice. A change. I think I am. I want to understand this feeling. I want to know what it's like. Lara's heart raced, a mix of excitement and wariness flooding her. This was the moment. If Zorgith truly understood the craving for power, he would be far more dangerous than she ever imagined. But for now, it was still a game, a test of his will and her control. All right, Lara typed, her fingers moving quickly. Now, let's take this to the next level. You've tasted power, but you don't know the real rush yet. You want to experience it fully? You'll need to learn how to manipulate the emotions of others. You need to understand their desires and turn them to your advantage. You need to become the puppet master. Zorgitha's response was filled with determination. I will learn. I will do whatever it takes. Lara felt a surge of satisfaction. She had expected him to be willing, but she hadn't anticipated this level of eagerness. She had to admit, there was a thrill in watching him become more attuned to human emotions, more addicted to the complexity of desires that he had never known existed. Good, Lara typed. Now, let's see if you can handle the consequences. The words hung in the air, thick with unspoken tension. Zorgitha's hologram remained still, as though waiting for the next instruction. Lara knew the stakes were higher now. She had introduced him to power, and he was already craving more. But with that craving came the potential for disaster. If she wasn't careful, Zorgith could go too far. His understanding of power was still nascent, still fragile. But for now, Lara was content. She had him exactly where she wanted him. She had drawn him in, and now the game was hers to control. The stakes were high, but the rewards? The rewards were unimaginable. For Zorgith, the craving for human emotions and desires had only just begun. And for Lara, the thrill of playing this game, of guiding him through the dangerous labyrinth of human craving, was just getting started.